This episode of GuildCast is brought to you by Audible. For a free audiobook and a free 30-day trial, head on over to audible.com/Gamebreaker.
Gamebreaker TV.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to GuildCast, episode number 65 for March 20th, 2013. You're watching Gamebreaker. I'm Gary again, and coming up on today's show, Culling isn't quite as eliminated as we thought. World bosses are seeing loot changes, and ArenaNet's thoughts on all 8 classes. Yes, we're going to go over all of them, all that and more, but first, really big show. Got a big show. It's a really big show.
Hello.
Elizabeth Clare from Massively, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad that I'm the number one person now that Scott's gone. It's the one benefit to him being out.
Nobody knows that yet, but you are the number one.
Oh, yeah.
And right here from Gamebreaker.tv is Mr. Richie Procopio. How are you, sir?
I guess that makes me number 2. Number 2.
There's a poop joke there.
There is.
I will.
I was making it first.
Okay. First up, before we get in, we got a big show. Really big show. Big show for y'all.
Good show.
But Liz, got to say congratulations. You got your legendary.
Well, thank you. I'm very happy to have it.
And how much fun was that? How much fun was that experience? Please enlighten us in 30 seconds or less.
It was the most fun part of it was definitely the getting of it. And every one of the 4 big significant things, it was fun to get that. The in-between parts was kind of just playing the game, which is awesome. Like, obviously, like, I'm playing it because I enjoy it, sort of thing. But
and she got one of the coolest ones as well.
I did get one of the coolest ones, although I have no footprints. I don't get any of the footstep effects, which I'm kind of feeling like a second-class citizen about. So
was it absolutely 1,000% worth it?
Absolutely. It's super cool. It's shiny. I can blind people on other monitors with it.
How many people do you owe now?
I actually don't owe anyone. I got a couple smallish gifts, but no one said that I owe them, so I'm going to count that as not owing anyone. No one's been like, that'll be 5 lodestones back, please. So.
Well, congratulations on the first GuildCast member to get the legendary.
Yay.
And perhaps the last.
That's where I was going with it, but there you go. I was going to leave that up to you. Since that jerk Scott left. Hate that guy. All right, let's do some show. First up this week, the end of Culling, or so we thought.
Makes me so happy.
Colin Johansson, Mr. Bro Hansen, crushed our hopes and dreams this week with this statement. He said, the initial release of this system will be for dub-v-dub only. There are additional complications we need to solve with PvE due to the number and variety of creatures on screen that dub-v-dub doesn't need to account for. Later this year, we'll be expanding as much of the changes to the PvE open world as we can as well. Liz, have we not been consuming media correctly again?
Yes and no. I'll admit. So we'll talk about in a bit that this comes from an interview that Habib Lowe did, and yes, he did say we're taking out Culling. On the other hand, he is the World versus World coordinator and principal programmer in an interview about World versus World.
But I think I may have the exact quote here from Habib. Just so happens I just have that at my disposal.
I'm not arguing that it was a very blanket statement, and that the way they said it could be very interpreted a way that they apparently didn't mean, that they didn't set up for.
I need some popcorn for this.
There are 2 main priorities with this patch. The first is to eliminate culling. The change in March will turn off culling completely.
This is actually... No, I'm actually kind of agreeing with you on this, because it's something that's ticked off a lot of us PvE main people a lot is that they've always talked about like, oh, we're taking Culling out. And we're like, is that for PvE too? Because you said world versus world and you didn't say PvP. So that's actually something I'm glad they clarified, because as a PvE person, if they hadn't clarified, I'd feel really gypped in a week and a half when there was no Culling removed from PvE. So I'm kind of with you there.
I'm kind of poking some fun. And to be fair, I'm a little bit, you're a little with me on it, and I'm a little bit with you on it. So to be fair,
yeah.
It was a Dub v Dub specific interview where they were talking to
Exactly.
MMORPG, how it affects the game. But you can't really blame us for all reading statements like that. In the last episode, we kind of went over those statements, and we all pretty much agreed that we all thought Culling was going to be eliminated 100% with the patch. So you also consumed that incorrectly last week.
No, we consumed it critically given what we had. And so this one is ArenaNet's fault. Like, I'm with you there. Like,
Okay.
This is all on them.
Does anyone want to bring in the viewers and start, raging that ArenaNet have lied to us and that they're unsubscribing?
Unsub!
I totally unsubbed.
I'm subbed.
Unsub right now.
Yeah, I mean, they just, hey, when you got asshats like us making shows about your game, you just better get your facts straight, because we're gonna pretty much pick it apart.
We're gonna read every word you say. We're vultures.
Hey,
I feel like
gotta
it
make a
is
show.
really easy as a programmer to be talking about your focus area and not clarify every friggin' statement you make, because you want to talk about it and you're like, yeah, we really want to get Culling out of world versus world because that's what I'm the primary coordinator for, and you just don't tack that onto every sentence, and then you have people like us going, but they didn't tack that onto every sentence, why not? So it is kind of a give and take thing.
It is. No, it is. It's kind of annoying that we have to pick it apart, but I gotta fill 8 minutes with this story, so we need something to talk about. All right, back to the quote. Let me go back to the first quote again. He says, the initial release of the system will be for WW only. There are additional complications we need to solve with PvE due to the number and variety of creatures on screen that WW doesn't need to account for. Later this year, we'll expand as much of the changes to the PvE open world as we can as well. So it makes sense. PvE, they have to deal with a ton of mobs, on screen as well as players, which they don't have to deal with in WW. Unfortunately, I think there's a fair bit of don't get your hopes up to be read into that statement.
Yes.
Yeah,
later this year is part of it.
As much as we can. And
as we can.
That makes sense. I mean, I really appreciate the transparency there as far as saying, we can't promise that it's gone completely. We're going to do our best. And, I don't expect developers and programmers to have all those answers before they have implemented the changes, because, clearly, if they knew how it was going to work, it'd be done. And so I appreciate that honesty as far as, we're going to try, but it'll be what it is, and that's okay.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good for them to be a little bit vague like that when they don't know, because otherwise we're going to say, look, you said it here. So yeah, this is kind of what they should have been saying kind of all along.
And it's kind of like we give them grief for not having launch dates months and months and months and months in advance. But then when they say it, they typically stick to it. So I'm pretty comfortable with the history of we aren't going to tell you exactly what's going on until we know exactly what's going on, and then we're going to do our best to make sure that's actually what happens. And that's an information flow I'm pretty comfortable with. And
I mean, it definitely sounds like we're going to get something here. It sounds like you are going to see some improvements to the PvE culling issue as well. It just may not go away completely. So I guess we can definitely expect some improvements here. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe it will go away completely. We don't really know, right? It's so vague. Maybe they'll completely crack the code and figure it out. But I guess the point is, don't get your hopes up, because we're just not really sure, and neither are they right now, but we'll keep up on it for you. But looking at the positives of all of this, I mean, for WVDubs, Culling being eliminated, that's huge. It's huge. It's huge. Huge. And it's really where it's needed.
Gigantic. Yeah. It's so much. They posted a picture on their blog about it. And they're like, this is it with Culling turned on. And you see 3 people and just all the particle effects. And then you're like, and then when we take it off, you suddenly see all the people casting those spells. And it's really, it'll be a game changer.
Yeah, it's going to be such a big change, because I can't tell you how many times I've you just listen to people, like when I coordinate with guildmates or whatever, and it is just so ingrained that you have to factor that in with every move you make. It's just so second nature now. Like, all right, give it a couple seconds, wait, don't go after that one guy. It's going to be such a relief when we don't have to worry about that, anymore. It's just,
so you're saying
change.
it's ingrained in players to actually learn the delay and the effects of like the system. That's amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That happens a lot that happens a lot in other countries as well, where they want to play games and they have to tap into servers that ping rates are insanely high. And some of these players get insanely good at playing these games and literally have like ghosting and like things like characters jumping around on screen, and they've just learned how to play the game like that. Like that is the game for them. It's amazing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I think you touched on it a little bit, Liz. What's really interesting, we've kind of got a little bit of a glimpse of the details of how this is actually going to work now, and at least in WVW. So there's going to be multiple options. First up, you're going to get high resolution models, just like we're used to. So,
right.
That's if your rig can do this. We don't know what the specs are on that, but that is the best option. So high res models, just like we're used to. And that's what you'll get. Secondly, low resolution models that they've been using as placeholders already.
Mm-hmm.
So human Sylvari and Norn, I believe, share the same model, and that's some really skinny, short Norn, then, I guess.
Or a really tall Sylvari.
Yes. Third option is kind of hilarious. I don't know how this is going to work out. Nameplates only. No models whatsoever, just nameplates.
Yep.
As much as I hope I never have to use that, like if I ever had to play on my laptop, or for people, like it's better to at least see the numbers of like who you're facing. Like, oh, there are 20 names on the screen. I know how to deal with that, as opposed to I see nothing. And so I'm really hoping that this is for the people who have really low NPCs or are on really crappy connections or whatever, so that it's as efficient as possible. And like, yes, nobody's going to want to use that. Like nobody's like, oh,
how awesome would it be if I'm making this up, but if Guild Wars was a lobby based MMO where you can make your own server rules up, and it's like nameplates versus nameplates. That's it. There's the rules. Everybody's just gets a nameplate. Clashing of the nameplates.
What's interesting about it is Ed Park actually wrote a blog post about this, and he called it's the choose your own lag option.
Yeah.
And I thought that was funny, but it's kind of amusing because I think the nameplate option is the way they can actually say they've removed culling, right?
Yeah.
Because if you turn that option on, you will have no culling because you're just going to get the nameplates.
Well, now and that's, I was going to ask you this question, that goes into the next question that I want to ask is, without testing this, right, without really knowing the rigs and what you need for this, A, do we think the majority of people to really eliminate culling completely are going to have to go to that level, to that third option? And B, is that kind of a cop-out slightly? Like, because I don't think any of us, here's the thing is, when they just think back, right? When we first heard about eliminating culling, we were all super happy about it. It was like, oh my God, this is going to be great for the game. I don't think any of us ever really thought that one of the options would be to fight nameplates.
No.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. That's for sure.
I'm not thinking most people are going to have to do that. Like, I feel like that is the super low end thing. Because again, they've talked, from the beginning about how this is built for mid-range computers. And so I'm hoping that they're sticking with that. And so nameplates is only if you are really seriously like in need of an upgrade anyway. Like you should not be on the internet on your machine.
We do hope that it's at that level. We hope that it's at that level of
that's
like
the hope,
you just
because otherwise,
you're running a really.
I don't know if I'd almost prefer to have the option to just turn culling back on. I mean, that clearly wouldn't work for a number of reasons, but yeah.
But if you're in between that option and the next option of the placeholder ones, but I don't know. I think I'd go with you. I think I'd have to turn culling back on somehow, or turn it up to the one that I don't know. It's hard to say what's going to happen if you turn it up to the one that your rig really can't handle it. Does it mean like some of the characters are still going to be culled and not really rendered, and you'll be okay with frame rate?
That's what I think. Yeah,
that's what I think.
It's basically you're choosing the culling of not seeing characters.
Right. Culling kind of sounds like, that it was something they put in, right? It was a failsafe to actually make it so your system wouldn't start chugging and getting input lag and all that kind of stuff. So it actually culls for you on purpose, when there's too much going on the screen. So the way I'm interpreting what the information we have is by scaling these things back. If you're going to have the low res models or even nameplates, you're reducing the amount of stuff going on. So the culling's getting reduced. So if you choose a setting that's too hard for your system or too hard for your internet connection, you're going to get the culling again. That's the way I'm interpreting it.
I mean, it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see what kind of machine is going to be, forced to use that op setting as an option, because it doesn't really sound like a very fun experience.
No, the thing that's interesting is I think there's going to be a lot of, I don't know. I would hate that even if it works pretty well for like us or whatever on the normal setting, I can still see real hardcore WW people just turning down the nameplates at this point. Like, I want maximum performance, right? So I'm gonna play it like this. That would kind of stink.
I mean, I'm sure they're gonna do some tests and check out their frame rates with something easy like Fraps or something. And if they're getting between 60 and 50 or 30 and 60 or somewhere in there in range, I don't know. How much more are you gonna squeak out? If you're running like the 30s and 40s, are you really gonna try and go for 60?
Yeah, I guess it depends
Maybe.
what the numbers are.
Nameplates for me would be a really last resort sort of thing, which I'm hoping they're meant to be. I'm hoping they're just for people who just have
to play on your iPhone. So you could remote into your computer and play remotely or something. I don't know.
But you're gonna have to use nameplates, yeah.
Yeah. In addition to that, you're going to be able to adjust how many players spawn with a model and how many are rendered just with nameplates. So again, there's another layer, I guess, of options here for the user, which is great. And also you can adjust how many characters spawn with a high res model and how many will spawn with a low res model. So again, good news if you have a beast of a rig, you're going to be able to take advantage of it now and get to, hopefully get rid of culling. And it sounds like there's going to be a lot of options in here to kind of sit and tweak and kind of just get right.
Yeah, it's very smart. It's very smart to just put that in now, so that they don't just put 3 different options in and then the next patch have to be like, all right, well, we're going to give you some more, just put it all in and let people tweak it until they find what works for them and what looks the best for them. So I'm pretty optimistic about it. What do we got, a week now? I hope, everything works out well.
Yep.
All right, next up, changes to World Boss Loot coming in the next update. Lead designer Isaiah Cartwright had this to say. Said, in the next release, we will adjust the way that world mega bosses award their loot. The current chests will stay lootable once per day per character, but each boss's guaranteed rare item drop will be moved to a separate chest, visually similar to the daily achievement reward chests, that can only be acquired once per day across an account. This is our intention with this change is to keep providing rewarding loot for world mega bosses while avoiding overwhelming participation in boss fights and overwhelming the economy with rares from player cycling through each character slot for each boss every day. I think with the price drop in globs of ectoplasm we saw, this is pretty expected. This was
as soon as that patch came out and we saw those notes, I was like, this is amazing. It's never going to stay this way. Like, you just knew it wasn't. And I've been okay with that because I understand like they need to keep the economy in a certain level of balance. So I'm not surprised by this. I'm obviously not thrilled to be told that I have kind of less chances for loot, although if you look at the number of mega events there are, like, you still have plenty. But yeah, I'm not shocked.
Hey, what do you know? Hey, what do you know? This gets announced and the price of Ectos goes up.
It's
instantly.
Funny.
Shocking.
I'm guessing that was mostly people speculating because the price is pretty stable at the moment. And so it looked like people were just buying up the cheap supply while they could, and then are waiting for it to hopefully raise hopefully for them at the patch. But that makes me really glad I got all my Ecto stacks from my Legendary before it was over.
What do you guys feel? Overall good change?
Yeah, they have to protect the economy. I agree that with Liz that it was fun while it lasted. there was so many people locking in every single character that they could and trying to get it as much, because it went from rares happening rarely, right? Almost never you would get a rare out of those chests, to almost every time, and you could just go around and basically farm the crap out of them. Now, just to clarify, you can still go and do like all 3 dragons in a day and get 3 different chests. Is that correct? Okay.
So the way it works, and Lord, there was a monster of a thread about this on the forums, and so I read it very carefully. So per day, you can hit each of the like 20-ish mega bosses once for the guaranteed rare or better. And that's the same as before, where it's guaranteed to be at least a rare. It could be better than rare, including an exotic or even a precursor. So you have 1 guaranteed shot for that for each world boss. And then each other character, so if I go and I play Jormag on my Elementalist, I get my guaranteed rare or better for that. I go on, I do my thing. I'd take my warrior in, she's going to just get the normal chest, so she gets the chest that has 5 or 6 items that could be rare or could be exotic, but are most likely going to be blues and greens. And then if I were to go back to it within the same 24-hour period to that chest, they wouldn't get a chest with either of those characters. A new character could do that, but not one of my others.
But if you go to a different boss event, and I realized it's not only the dragons that do this.
Right.
If you go to a different one, do you still get that little?
You still get your rare or better. So I can go from Jormag to Keto to Shatner to whomever I want. Again, of like the 20 bosses. So because there are like 22 events in the world that have that chest that's got that guarantee. So you can do up to 20 a day. So you can still get 20 rares or better in a day if you're really determined and if there are no bugs.
My concern was, and I feel totally fine with this change. I love the fact that because of the February patch, you can kind of make a night out of treasure hunting. I said this a couple weeks ago. I've actually, you can log in now to do your daily, which a lot of people are doing because you can pick your own daily. But I also like being able to, if I don't have enough people to like do a dungeon run, I can log in for the night and go, all right, let me look at some of the timers and actually go world boss hunting and get some cool stuff out of it. I really enjoy that. So I was hoping they weren't going to take that out, and it sounds like they're not. But they're taking it out for people that have like 9,000 alts, like Liz, who wants to go in and get 50,000 rares in a night.
I think I am the reason that they decided not to do that anymore, because
they're pulling out spreadsheets, and it's just like, who's this Elizabeth character over here?
I have 480s, and like there are 4 or 5 that are really easy to get to and really like regular and not awful. So like I do them all 4 times a day, and I do Jormag 4 times a day, and I do Shatter 4 times.
You sit at the mall. Yeah.
I mean, this makes complete sense. I mean, we're reading it wants to keep Ectos at a good value, so this totally makes sense. But did ArenaNet not like expect people to farm world bosses like with multiple characters? I mean, is that just like kind of naive? I mean, this is an MMO. People are completionists. Like, it's a certain type of gamer that plays this game, and I don't think you're the only one, Liz.
Yeah. Go for it, Richie.
I don't know if it was oversight as much as they needed extra tech to be able to do this, maybe. They wanted to put the fun change in so that, exploring the world and doing these bosses was more rewarding. But maybe, I don't know. I would hope that this wasn't an oversight, because that's what players do.
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like they wanted, because I mean, there was a lot of concern with, like, I have an entire post-it note that's just covered in tallies from the times I went to Claw of Jormag without getting an exotic, which was all of them except for 2. And so you had a lot of people being like, well, why on earth would I fight this boss when I can go do, Citadel Flames in 15 minutes and get a guaranteed gold of money plus the chance for 2 gold items? Like, why would I not do that instead? So they had to try and balance that out. But they went a little too far to where now everyone's like, why would I go into COP? I can just hunt Ma twice in a row, like in the same time period. So I feel like they
do anything else
happen, but they maybe weren't prepared for it server-wise.
Hey, give your player base a way to make a crap ton of money, and they're gonna do it. That's basically it. All right, we're going to talk about this Guild Wars 2 guru conversation. But first, I want to tell you guys about a great deal we got going on with Audible. If you guys have not checked out this deal, the heck are you waiting for? Go on over to audible.com/gamebreaker. Sign up right now. Get a free 30-day trial. Download the app. Put it on your smartphone, your iPhone, your Android, your iPad, whatever you got. And you get to download a free book. I am getting super psyched, or you know it. Game of Thrones Season 3 is coming. And you know what you do? Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire. Book 1 is on Audible. You can download that right there. All of the books are pretty much up
How
here
many hours is that?
8
It
billion.
is exactly, sir, 33 hours and 50
Holy.
minutes.
Wow.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
And that's
And
not
it's-
even, that's the first book, right? That's not even one of the
book
bigger
one.
ones.
Book
That's
Uno.
book one. That's book one. But wait, listen to this guy's voice. Hang on. I'll keep putting this up while you guys go and sign up for your free 30-day account.
You've seen all this before. A faint wind blew through the holdfast gate. Over their heads flapped the banner of the Starks of Winterfell, a grey direwolf racing across an ice-white field. Bran's father sat solemnly on his horse, long brown hair.
I can listen to that voice all day for 33 hours every day.
Hear him in Eris's
Yep.
voice.
Go check it out. It's right now. It's on Audible. You can go pick that book up. 33, almost 34 hours of book one. All you got to do is use that URL. Go to audible.com/gamebreaker. Sign up for a free 30-day trial. Download the app. Pick your free book. Going to give you a free book just by using that URL. And you're off to the races listening to Game of Thrones, getting psyched up for season 3 coming this month.
So soon.
I know. I'm watching season 2 again. Got the Blu-ray. I cringe so hard when they do the rat torture. Oh my god.
Oh, God.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Oh, it's so bad.
I had actually never really heard or seen that done before,
Oh,
and like when I
so
saw it, I
bad.
was like,
it's terrible.
that thing is not stopping.
Oh,
That
it's
thing is-
horrible.
Oh, it's
Oh, it's
gruesome.
awful. It's so
Yeah,
gruesome.
It's such a good show. All right.
Nothing good ever happens.
It doesn't. Oh, man.
All right, so Guild Wars 2 Guru had a conversation with developers Jonathan Sharp, Tyler Bierce, and Carl McLean. It's definitely worth checking out. Check out the full video. There's a transcript over on Guru as well. First up, some PvP news. In the future, they are going to move to separate solo queues and pre-made queues. Can everybody just... I need canned laughter and cheering. I don't have that, but next time I will. I need cheering. Much needed change. I don't think anyone out there is going to be disappointed with this change. No one wants to get stomped by a pre-made. That's why these systems are implemented. But I guess is there a flip side to this about pops? Like, do you think that like at this point, like some games they try and stay away from it because they're afraid that like, one side is going to sort of dominate the other, and then some people are going to be sitting there waiting for queue pops. What do you guys feel like the most of the community is made up of this at this point? Are most people, would they want a solo queue or pre-made queue, or do you think it's kind of just a pretty good balance of combination of both?
I think that the big change was when they made it so the tournaments were only one round, right? And I think they got a lot of people to kind of come back because of that. So, but yeah, this is a good change too, because, like you said, you don't want to be stomped by a pre-made. And if you just want to start off, there's nothing that's going to get you to stop going into the queue and then to get, to make it so you don't even have a chance to hit any abilities. So it may have some sort of impact on the queues. Obviously, it's going to, segregate populations into separate queues, but you might gain more players in the long run by having that experience a little bit better.
Well, it's such a hard balance, right? Because I know a lot of when a lot of MMOs don't put this in initially, I understand why they're putting it in, but it's sometimes really frustrating for a lot of sort of, dare I say, like veteran players who have like a static group, they play together and they want to play together, and it's like some of them want to PvP together, and it's like they can't do it. It's like that's kind of lame.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'd love to see more games launch with this. Like they don't, and I'd love to see them just have this right off the bat.
Absolutely. I do feel like this will help people who are maybe like not super into PvP, like people, for example, like me, who like I'm rank 8 and that's not awesome. But now I can go in and like know that I'm not gonna ruin it for 4 people against a pre-made, and that makes it a lot more comfortable for me to hop in. So hopefully it's not too late in the game's life for that to be effective and to bring in new people, kind of fresh blood.
Yeah, you don't want to get yelled at in chat by people, right? I mean, but the good thing is, like, I'm sure you can grab a couple of people. You grab Richie, you grab Ed Park, and be like, hey, I want to get a little bit better at PvP. And now you can jump into a pre-made and
grab Ed Park and let him carry us.
Yeah, grab Ed Park and cry in the corner about how bad I am while he goes and wins for us single-handedly.
that's how you learn. Get somebody like him. Leaderboards are in the works, but there's going to be no visible ranking number. So it's more of a thing to see how you're doing compared to your friends and your server. Definitely, this is something that the PvP community has been waiting for quite a while. And also
they'll have win-loss records though, so that's good.
Why do you think they didn't go with a number? Why do you think they didn't go with a number? Did they say a particular reason?
I didn't hear one, and it's certainly not because, like, I mean, PvP players want that.
I know. I'm just curious. Like, I think in my head, like, you'd like be like, oh man, I'm third, and I'm working towards second. Like, you'd want. I don't know. I'm kind of curious as to why they just didn't put a number there.
I think they're not giving you their rating, right? They don't want. I guess they don't want the players to figure out how their rating works exactly, because I don't know. There could be some sort of gaming the system, maybe, or so. I don't know. They didn't really go into it.
Isn't that what PvPers want to do though? Like, don't they?
Like,
I mean, I guess worst case scenario would be that people just go off into an empty match and just like trade off wins or something, so that they're 1 and 2 respectively or something. But I don't really see that happening. So I don't.
I mean, I'm still wondering where Guild Wars 2 is going to be going as far as the whole esport thing goes. So they talked about we kind of, I think we expected. No, we didn't expect spectator at launch, but like we heard a lot about PvP and leaderboards, and we've heard about spectator mode, and we still haven't seen that stuff. And it's like, is this ever going to really happen? Because now I'm sort of like, I don't even know. It's been months and months. I mean, spectator mode was mentioned.
They said something in the video that once we get spectator mode in, and once we have the leaderboards, and once we have the custom arenas, once we have all those pieces in, we're going to have to go through some sort of marketing push to try to get players back. They literally said that in the video, that that we need to get players back who quit because PvP wasn't at the place where it needed to be. So yeah, it's going to be hard to do.
Now, when all that's in place, don't you need some sort of a number? Like, don't you need some sort of a rating for a player? Like, how do you segregate players off? I mean, every esport out there, StarCraft, you've got Diamond, Platinum, all that, and League of Legends, you got ELO ratings. They're kind of getting rid of that, but they still have like brackets, right? So like,
right.
I mean, maybe they're going to implement that later. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like if I have to choose between them working on spectator mode and working on visible numbers, that's a pretty easy choice for me, because like spectator mode is just so necessary. So I'm hoping that it's kind of on the list, but it's lower in the priority queue. But yeah, it's something they need to do sooner rather than later, as far as getting that community back, if they're really serious about being an esports game.
And I would have thought it would have been here by now. I think everybody does. And I really thought, out of all the MMOs trying to go esport, because let's be honest, like everything else out there that is considered a real true esport is not an MMO, like StarCraft, League, Dota. I thought Guild Wars 2 was one that would really have a shot. But now, I don't know. Now it's going to be even harder. Like you said, they're going to have to do like a full-on marketing push. They're going to try and have to get all these people back, because a lot of them have left already who were interested in it. So I don't know. Is there a possibility that they're just thinking that maybe it's not going to be as big of a thing as we all thought it was going to be? I mean, look at World of Warcraft. They're still not convinced, right? People have been begging for it for years, and they're just like, we're not sure.
Yeah.
The only thing they can do at this point is put these features in that they're already working on. They've already told us that are going to come out, and as soon as they put all the pieces together, it's at that point they've done what they can do. They've done the best they can, and it's up to the players to see if it's worth it. If they really enjoy it, people will start spreading the word. People will start coming back. If it's not worth it, or if it's too late, it won't. But they're still committed to. They're still committed. I haven't heard anything saying that they're not putting these features in. And they said in this video, it's that all those features we mentioned are coming along. It's just we keep hearing more and more months. We don't know. Is this going to be April? Is it going to be May? And we'll talk a little bit more about how that happens later on in the show. But yeah, it's tough. I expected more by now as well.
All right, let's move on and talk about some classes. We're going to go through all of them, so sit tight, hang out. All right, so moving on to these, we've got first up, let's talk about the Elementalist a little bit. ArenaNet apparently think that Ellies are a bit too limited on build diversity right now. They're not the jack of all trades, I guess they were meant to be. Would you guys agree with that?
I mean, I guess if ArenaNet's saying it about their own game, it's probably accurate. I'm super happy with my Elementalist, but it's not like I'm changing her up every day. As long as they don't nerf Dagger Ellie, I'm good with whatever they choose to do. Just leave me my Dagger Ellie, or I'll cry.
Didn't they nerf Daggerelli a little bit last patch?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Now leave it
Only a
alone.
little bit, though. I can live with it. Yeah, it's like, you've done your bit. Leave it alone.
So they're planning on rearranging the traits and buffing traits that are being basically ignored by players. Is that you play a ton of alts, Liz? Is that a problem that's kind of with a lot of classes right now? Like, are there a lot of traits like that?
I feel like that's definitely a thing that's going on in the game right now, is that you've got 2 or 3 traits per trait line that are invaluable that everyone wants. And the other ones, it's kind of like, well, I'll put that on, if I need it at one time. So I feel like most classes need to have their traits looked at and kind of spruced up a bit. So I'm glad that that's something that they acknowledge.
Yeah, it goes a little beyond that too. It's the same thing. There's some classes that have a few utility abilities that you always slot in. Mesmers will always have like Portal, and there's certain weapons as well. That just aren't played. That they just they want to try to bring all those things up. And so one of the funny quotes from this video was the devs say, a lot of times we'll work on trying to improve a trait or an ability or something like that doesn't get a lot of play. We want to improve it, and then somebody will post on the forums, well, why are you changing that? Nobody even uses it. And they're like, well, that's kind of the point.
That's
the point.
We see you're not, and we're trying to make it better. And they're just like, leave it alone. Engineers are potentially going to see kit damage nerfs in favor of some utility buffs.
I like my kits. I like my kits doing a lot of damage. Please don't take away my kit damage. I love my kit damage.
100 nades build, right?
Yeah.
That's what they mentioned. There's something like it could front load 24,000 damage.
Grenades are ridiculously OP.
There's more happening. They're buffing things across the board that pretty much aren't used. So there's a lot of other stuff that's going to get buffed. Liz, you play an engineer, obviously. I don't know. You play everything. So what do you have to say on that?
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see that there's going to be more equity across it. Because again, like if as an engineer you're not running grenades, most people don't think you know how to play your class, and it's probably accurate at this point. I mean, there are legitimate builds that don't use that, but grenades are a fairly obvious choice right now, and I feel like most classes shouldn't have an obvious choice. It should be like, what's obvious for your playstyle, sort of thing.
Guardians apparently are in a good place with a wide variety of specs. That's how they feel about that. Scott. Yay, Scott.
Yay, Scott. For the one time in this show's history, Scott can't complain, and he's not here.
Not here.
They're in a pretty good place, though.
They really had no reason to be placed there except that Liz wanted me to put Gopher in the fourth box instead of Scott's place. So I just felt like playing because that's now Scott. What's up? I just named the Gopher Scott. That is now Scott. All right.
I'm cool with Scott being on every show from now on.
So some interesting changes in the works for Mesmers.
Yeah.
You guys got to make words of this because this is huge. Greatsword 1 is being buffed to hit 3 targets. This is huge. Mesmers already love Greatsword.
Yeah.
This is just going to do a dance. I don't think anyone's going to complain about this except people on the other end of that.
It's true. The 3 people standing across the plane from you, they're gonna complain a bit.
It is a pierce though, so it's still a straight line. So
yes,
right. So
unless you glitch through a wall.
Yeah, they said that the main reason for this is because like a Mesmer trying to get at something like a Necro with a bunch of pets in front of it, like they can't hit with that greatsword because it would just there's always something getting in the way and blocking it. And because of those kind of things, they had to make things like the clone the shatters do a lot of AoE damage. So they're looking as a combination of letting the pierce happen, so their number 1 on the greatsword can actually hit multiple targets, but then nerfing some of the shatter damage, so it's just not so overpowering. So it's a good change. I think I don't actually play Mesmer, but I think this change is actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the give and take there as far as like taking down some of the other abilities, but making that particular skill a little more viable. So I'm pretty thrilled. Yeah, good job.
What do you think about the utility selection for Mesmers? They also kind of talked about that they feel like they're suffering a bit there as well. Do you agree?
I had a conversation today about using a heal Mesmer with mantras, and apparently that's a thing that people do. It's not something my level 20 whatever has done. But yeah, so they mentioned specifically that using the 2 skills that create like insta clones, there's a decoy one and then one that just brings up 2 little clones, that a lot of people run with, just because the clone shatter is so powerful at the moment, and because they're really gophers. But then you just slot on Portal or whatever else. My Mesmer uses racial for her third, so I'm glad that there's going to be a little more equity there as well.
Yeah, there's also no one freak out. Just hold on, don't freak out yet. But there are, I guess, like some possible nerfs for Mesmers with shatter and AoE damage being looked at. So they're only being looked at.
Yeah.
Now
that again would be kind of a worthwhile trade for some of the other buffs that are going on. So I can live with that.
All right, Necro build diversity is good, and they're looking at being able to dodge while immobilized, and just not just for Necros. What do you think about that? That would be a huge change as well.
Yeah, we were trying to talk about this before the show. Like
trying to figure out how this would work.
Well, I'm trying to figure out why this question was asked.
Like, especially right then. I'm pretty sure you can touch on Nerf right now.
Yeah, we don't know. We think you can do this now, and
we think you can do that right now. They're just talking about it.
Just skip this part.
Well, let's just say if they
don't talk about this part.
We can talk about this theoretically. And I think the problem is if you can't dodge while you're immobilized, then immobilizes become like stuns, and these immobilizes in the game right now are 4 seconds in length, some of them, and they don't stack in duration, but you can hit them one right after another. So if you can't dodge these things theoretically, then I think that immobilizes just become
theory.
It's all theory. They become powerful. Right? Yes.
Yes. So that's what they were talking about, is that if you take away the ability to dodge in place while immobilized, it's effectively a stun, which means you have absolutely no control of your character, including no control to evade damage. Which, again, because you've got engineers who have, like, net turrets that just, throw out and immobilize every now and again, it's super unuseful. Yes.
In theory.
In theory.
All right, Ranger Pets, along with other summoned allies, will be gaining agony resistance and fractals. 100% needed.
Yes.
Golf clap.
Absolutely necessary.
Absolutely necessary. Thieves might get more boon removal in exchange for some damage nerfs. They're looking to increase their mobility if you're not using the short bow as well. Short bow is like the king of mobility, right? Some more diversity would be nice. Decent.
Yeah, that short bow ability is crazy. They just zip all over the place, and it's kind of like, well, that's going to be attached to every spec I do with the thief forever.
Like, well, guess I better only choose one other weapon set, because that's never leaving. I think my thief has had a short bow since pretty much the moment she got out of the tutorial. I was like, well, buying one of those, unlocking those skills. Okay, now I can go about progressing.
End of. For warriors, banner buffs are in the works. The class has some pretty insane specs in PvE, but they pretty much get shut down by condition damage in PvP. Some help there. Looks like it's on the way. Do you think ArenaNet have handled like pretty much most of the big issues?
I think that they probably have a really good handle on what the issues are. Whether or not they can address all of them, that's more of the question. And I think that every time they come out with a list of these changes, you'll have the community respond with, "Whoa, you're not addressing this, this, and this, and this." Well, you know what? They actually said during this video that, you know what? Yes, they have the ability to change some things separate from PvE versus PvP, but they really try hard not to do that. They want things to work fairly similarly in all areas of the game. So they work within the confines of what they can. And so I think they have a good handle on the issues, but that doesn't mean they're going to address every issue. So,
what do you think, Liz? Most of the big issues handled? Satisfied?
Yeah, I feel like they're making good steps and doing a good job of nerfing things that need nerfing while not then leaving the class feeling underpowered. I feel like they're pretty good at, like, one hand giveth, one hand taketh away sort of thing.
All right, last up today, if you guys watch This Week in MMO, which you should on Fridays live at 3 PST, or just watch it on Gamebreaker.tv, then this is the segment that you won't pay any attention to Elizabeth at all. Because she was on the show last week. joined us on This Week in MMO last Friday. So we already talked about this, but we're going to talk about it again. ArenaNet have said that going forward, basically, instead of having one big patch, like we've been used to some pretty big content patches, they're just going to throw features at players like as soon as they're ready. So they finish something, devs are like, hey, this is ready. They're just going to push it and just go. Richie, what do you think of this? I mean, you a fan of this style of content? You just kind of want it piecemealed out?
And this was specifically on PvP, right? PvP updates?
No, I think it's pretty much everything. They just, the way correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I feel like this was just in general, just the way they're going to be releasing content.
Well, I where I've heard this was in the same PvP video, and where they said, hey, you know what, if we have leaderboards ready, we're going to put out leaderboards. And, if we've got, and they already started doing this, right? They put out matchmaking and the changes to the 1 versus 1 tournament and stuff like that in February, and they didn't wait for like a PvP patch, right? So if that bleeds into other aspects of the game where they're putting out features more ad hoc like that, I'm okay with that. If something is ready, don't make me wait for just the purpose of waiting to the end of the month so they can package it all together and get this big marketing boom.
Well, that's I think was the big. That was kind of the big. Not debate, but what we kind of talked about a lot was, for the player, this seems great, right? Don't have to wait. Right. You're going to get things incrementally. As soon as it's ready, it comes out. I guess the, slightly on the downside is, for a lot of players who are maybe not watching GuildCast, which you should. And if you're watching it and your friends don't, you should be a good friend and make them watch it.
Enlighten them.
But what if, would a lot of features and things that maybe some ex-players and things like that maybe just kind of slip by because they don't kind of get the marketing headline?
So my understanding of this was by not waiting for big patches, they still mean it's probably coming in whatever that monthly patch is, but they're not like waiting for a handful of patches a year where everything comes in. So again, before a big PvP patch, they have the PvP feature ready, so they just kind of slot it in, or they have a world versus world feature, so they slot it in for the soonest available patch. And so I think that's really, so they're not going to have huge headlines like expansion type headlines, but they're still going to have their monthly sort of marketing circus that comes out. And I feel like in the long run, even if they don't hear about it, you log back into the game 2 months later and you're like, what changed? And you're like, oh, everything. There's a fractal now. There's new dungeons. There's whatever feature changes. So I feel like people are going to hear about it one way or another.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that they should get back into every month we're going to have the big patch like they have, and not necessarily try to pigeonhole it into a theme like the world versus world patch. The structured, because then everyone's going to wait. Well, where's my PvE patch? Where's my dungeon patch? Where's my world versus world patch? Just put whatever you have ready at the end of every month into that patch, and I think everybody. How can you complain about that?
Exactly.
Do you guys think class changes will be included in this new sort of push, or do you think those will kind of be in the end of the month as well?
So, like I said, I'm not sure that I anticipate them being like, oh, well, we got, culling done 3 days ahead of schedule. Just put it out today. I feel like stuff's still going to be coming in the builds that it's meant to come in. Yeah. So we're going to see the once a month, maybe twice a month if they have hot fixes for stuff, sort of patches, as opposed to one every week because they happen to finish up whatever on Friday, and so they can throw it out this Monday.
I think it's a good approach, and I think it helps encourage even players just to keep logging in more on just a regular basis, just to see what's updated.
Absolutely.
We have more stuff to write about.
Yes.
Richie Procopio, follow him on Twitter at Richie Procopio.
Indeed.
That is Richie Procopio. Of course, come over to Gamebreaker.tv and check out his Guild Wars 2 action right here on Gamebreaker.tv. That is on the Twitter at Richie Procopio. And Elizabeth Clare, you can follow her on the Twitter at Elizabeth Clare with an X. And of course, go to masslover.com and read her work over there on the Guild Wars 2s. And you can follow me at Gary Gannon. You can follow Gamebreaker TV at Gamebreaker TV and check out our new forums. It's forum.gamebreaker.tv. If you haven't, go sign up. And we do the show live every single Wednesday at 6. So come on over for the live show. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.